All right, fellas, I am so excited. It is time to finally share it. The deck has been put to paper. My Orcust deck that I've been testing on Dueling Book, playing in several online tournaments with, I finally have it physically with the release of Eternity Code. Eternity Code's official release date is marked for June 5th. However, I was fortunate enough to be able to pick up the cards slightly early, and I'm excited to give you guys the full-powered Orcust list that I've been playing a lot recently. A lot of time has been put into this deck, a lot of love has been put into this deck, and I've constantly been tweaking it, changing it, trying different variants, and this is the one that I've come up the most that I like, at least contextually right now, to the format. Even though there's a potential Forbidden and Limited list quite literally right around the corner, I really wanted to share this deck because I think it's a good piece of Yu-Gi-Oh history to learn the exact power of the deck that this had during the format. Also, with everything going on right now, this might be a deck that we might not even be able to see physically in a premiere event. And I'm not gonna lie, that would really suck. So I wanted to give a visual representation of the deck, at least for this time that it was legal. Without further ado, I'm gonna explain the deck fully in depth and then stick around till after because I'm going to show you guys two very powerful combos that were facilitated by this deck. Let's hop into it. All right, so starting it off, 3 Girsu, the Orcust Mech Knight. The legend has finally been released. I can't believe it. There was a poster child for legacy support. This card would just absolutely be it. This card literally does absolutely everything the deck wants it to do, and it does it extremely well. On summon, you get to dump a World Legacy or an Orcust monster, and then also once per turn, if you control no other monsters, you can make yourself a token and your opponent a token. And then that token's a World Legacy token. Don't know exactly how relevant it is, but it's also a level 1. It's 2 bodies, it's Foolish Barrels from the deck. What more do I need to say? Literally the perfect support card for this deck, and it just instantly puts this deck way far ahead. This deck just continues to dominate the meta in the OCG, and I'm really excited we have this card in particular here in the TCG, so now we can feel the full power of it for ourselves. Moving on to the rest of the Orcusts, 3 Orcust Nightmare, still playing 3 in the deck. Even though Girsu's a great starter, I still think this card, pitching it on its own, is just as good. You can banish this card from your graveyard to send a machine monster from your deck to your graveyard, and then boost a monster's attack by the level times 200 or something like that. The attack gain is normally negligible. It comes up a lot, actually, surprisingly, but the main thing is this banishes itself, and you also get to dump another Orcust or a Dark Machine monster from your deck. Moving on, we have 2 Orcust Symbol Skeleton. Some people go between 2 and 3 of this card. You can banish from your graveyard to target an Orcust monster in your graveyard and special summon it. This is a main card that people are normally spooked about because not only does it facilitate a lot of plays on your turn, but also it's what facilitates all your plays on your opponent's turn. Combos like summoning Girsu on your opponent's turn to be able to send a card non-targeting, it's all done by this card alone. Then wrapping it up, we have just 1 Orcust Brass Bombard. This card's really cool. You can summon it off Alki Firebrax and make combos, and sometimes it just extends your hands into absolutely ridiculous plays. Wrapping up the Orcust kind of package is a 2 World Legacy World Wand. I don't really even know what to say about this. Absolutely mandatory for the combo. Also a crazy card too. This happens a lot where you can dump this card, and if you have one in hand, it's never truly a brick because then you can just special summon it from in hand with its other effect. That's the Orcust package. I have a feeling this will be the standard moving forward. I don't know if people really want to deviate much from it. Like I said, the only thing I can consider people budging with is maybe bumping up Brass or bumping up Symbol Skeleton. But this is the count that I've liked the best, the one that I found works the best for me. Moving on to other machine type cards, we have 3 Scrap Recycler and 1 Scrap Golem. It's great going first. It's even better going second because you can use Scrap Wyvern, which is a really good card. Also, Normal Summon Recycler is way more volatile than Normal Summon Girsu. The combos that Recycler on its own facilitates is just absolutely absurd. If you play the Lib combo like I'm playing too, you're able to like activate Scrap Recycler 3 times in 1 turn, and that just doesn't even sound okay. And like I said, just the potential going second with this engine too, being able to pop and spin an opponent's card, you're easily able to tear up boards with it. I don't think, if you're not playing the Scrap Recycler engine, just why? All right, and then going on to the last stars, we have Armageddonite and Dark Grepher. I cut Dark Grepher for actually the longest time in the deck, and I actually recently bought him back just because sometimes you just open up a Nightmare or a World Wand and you can summon him for free, and then you can discard any other Dark, and then he dumps one. And then Armageddonite is another one of the main starters in the deck, but it's also really cool because it's not once per turn. So if you pair it with the Lib combo and you have Succession or like a Monster Reborn type effect, you can send another Dark from the deck to your graveyard, and that comes in super handy when you're trying to make combo plays. All right, and then moving on to the one-ofs, are the kind of utility cards we have. Gizmecha Orochi, the Serpentine Sky Slasher. Mecha Phantom Beast O-Line, Jet Synchron, and Dragon Buster Destruction Sword. People that have obviously seen this deck before will instantly know what these are for. These are for Halki Fibrax kind of plays here. O-Line is also mandatory for the Scrap Recycler combo, so that's another plus with it. Dragon Buster Destruction Sword is for the Union Carrier lock. Being able to lock your opponent out of summoning from the extra deck is unsurprisingly pretty good, and unsurprisingly also, it comes up a lot. And then Orochi, the Sky Slasher. This card is just the most extremely flexible level 8 Dark Machine. Literally blends in perfectly with the deck, allows you to trigger 0 Boros pays, and also it's just really good in general. Being able to put game on board with it, pretty good. And then last but not least, the hand trap count. I am playing 3 Ash Blossom and 2 Nibiru. That's it for the hand traps. Okay, maybe that's not all of them. I have imperms here, but they're in the trap section. One of the things you won't be seeing in this deck is the Machina engine, and it's not that I don't like it. It's just I think right now, currently with the format how it is, Jet Synchron being literally like a 1-card unbreakable board. Yeah, True King of Calamities, kind of a pretty good card last time I've seen it. Being able to make turn 1 boards isn't as difficult with this deck because you have so many 1-card starters, even though Redeployment is a really disgusting card. If I were to play the Machina engine, it's probably like another 7 to 8 cards I have to replace in the deck. And the only thing that I would consider cutting or replacing is the hand trap count, because that's the only thing that's kind of flexible. So it becomes a matter of, do I play hand traps or do I just fit more gas into the deck and hope that the Machina engine can get me there? And I really don't feel comfortable just playing pure gas because I know some of the boards that these decks can poop out, and even with more gas, I'm not out in them. So my only way to really combat these boards that are just too good is to play good hand traps. And I think these 5 here are definitely like the cream of the crop. Nibiru is only a 2 because I think it's the least flexible out of the 8 that I play. But also this card is just an absolute blowout against any deck that uses the Jet Synchron thing. However, there still are some decks in the game where this card just isn't that great. Whereas I think Ash and Imperm are just pretty much good against every matchup around the board. So yeah, those are the hand traps I chose to play. Pretty good against Eldritch and Adamancipator. That's really what I geared it for because that's all I see. And that's the monster count. Let's move swiftly on to the spell count. We have the 1 Orchestrated Babble, the field spell. This card's so good. While you have this card face up on the field, all your Orcust monsters become quick effects. And that means pretty much all the things you did on your turn, you can do on your opponent's turn as well. The main thing that everybody knows that this allows you to do is to be able to banish Symbol Skeleton from your graveyard, summon Ding on your opponent's turn, and then Ding effect on your opponent's turn to send any card they control non-targeting. Moving on, 3 Orchestrated Returns. Girsu is another Orcust monster that we can add to the count of return targets here. Literally the best draw card in your deck, just being able to sometimes dump a Nightmare and then draw 2 more cards. That's pretty okay last time I checked, you know? 3 Called by the Grave. Your combos in this deck are very, very fragile. Most of them are 1-card combos, but they can also equally be stopped with 1 card. And then the one-ofs, we have the 1 of Foolish Burial, Monster Reborn, and the World Legacy Succession because we are playing the Lib engine. All right, moving on to the traps. Very short trap lineup. 3 Infinite Impermanence. I already talked in depth about it. I think this is actually one of the best hand traps in the game because you can't call by the Grave. And then to wrap up the main deck, the 1 Orcust Crescendo. I don't know, I really probably don't have to talk about that. That's the main deck, 40 cards on the dot. Really tight 40, I like it a lot. Moving on to the extract, we have 2 Dingirsu, the Orcust Evening Star. This is the all-star of the deck for sure. When he's special summoned, you can either target a banished machine-type monster and equip it to him, or you can send a card your opponent controls to the graveyard. It's very important, again, that that effect does not target. That gets around so much in the game. The deck, that's your only XYZ monsters in the deck because you're not really XYZing in this deck. The rest are all Link monsters, and we'll go through the rest of them here. You're playing 2 Galatea. Galatea allows you to shuffle back a banished machine monsters to set an Orcust spell or trap from your deck to the field. A lot of people like to play 3 of this card, but I've said it before, I've never gone into 3 of this card, so I'd rather keep that extra deck spot for literally anything else. I never see the 3 in an entire game. I never want the 3rd in an entire game. Again, there's always other things that I wish I had, and I think I'm pretty much only able to fit them all because I'm not playing 3 Galatea. For the rest of the Link 2s, we're playing IP Masquerena, Scrap Wyvern, Lib the World Key Blade Master, Crystron Halki Fibrax, and Union Carrier. If anybody can tell me any of these that you would be able to cut, let me know, because I think they're all pretty core to the deck here. Wyvern is disgusting with all your scrap plays. Lib also complements those scrap plays as well as it being a great card on its own. Searching a Succession, and then when this card's sent to the grave, or being able to shuffle back a card on the field to your opponent's deck. Again, that's another effect that doesn't target. Sounds pretty good to me. You're also almost always ending on IP with most of your boards here, so, and then the Halki Fibrax and the Carrier Lock. I actually don't even make Halki Fibrax as much as the other cards, but the Carrier Lock I make all the time. Then there's only one linked one, that's Link Karibo. This pairs with your Girsu token to be able to give you another monster. So if you need to go Girsu, blink the token into the Link Karibo, you can then make Galatea, because you can't normally make Galatea with a non-effect monster. Moving on to the link 3s, we have long Girsu, the Orcust Orchestrator. You can target 2 machine monsters and you're banished, shuffle them back to the deck, and then shuffle back 1 linked monster. It's important to note that that's literally any monster that's linked. So if a Galatea is like pointing to something in the extra deck monster zone over on the left, you can send that monster. Any linked monster, not just linked to it. And then the last 3 is a Nightmare Unicorn. This pairs really well with your IP, being it's also a dark is pretty nice too. Shuffling back a card in the field, still pretty good last time I heard. Move to this side, starting to pile up a little bit there. And now for the link 4s, we have Topologic Zeroboros, Access Code Talker, as well as Boral's Sword Dragon. These cards are your game enders. This is normally what you're going to be ending multiple games with. Zeroboros gets absolutely chongin when you pair it with a Gizmek. That also in this deck, not only is Gizmek a way to be able to trigger Zeroboros on your opponent's turn, but all your cards with Babel become able to be activated on your opponent's turn. Symbol Skeleton brings them back. Zeroboros is banished from the board. Access Code Talker is new with Eternity Code. This card is disgusting. It can become super beefy, especially when you pair it with an attack boost from a link 3. And then although Access Code Talker can get pretty beefy himself, Boral's Sword Dragon sometimes can put game on board where normally these 2 cards couldn't. And that is the 15 card extra deck. Again, another thing that's super tight. I'm really happy with it. There's like no changes I think I would make with it at all. I can't even think of one. And now on to the side deck. Keep in mind, this is really just preference. It depends on what you're going to be seeing in your local meta or what you're just playing the most against. I pretty much sided this appropriately for what I've been seeing a lot online, which is Adamantipator, Eldritch, anything meta really. Obviously, if you're not seeing meta around you, your side deck will be different, but this is just what I've been seeing recently. We have the 3rd Nibiru sitting in the side deck here, as well as another one of being Mind Control. The last one of that's sticking on its own is actually Red Reboot. These are the one-ofs of power that I chose. All of them serve a different purpose. This fills out the 3 for the card that's like literally broken when you can resolve it against Jet Synchron decks. Red Reboot comes in super clutch against like things like Guru, absolutely just smashes the matchup. Altergeist, good luck. Mind Control is also very useful, not only against the mirror match, but also just in general. I like the card a lot, and I think it also just removes a whole bunch of really problematic boards. Moving on, we have 3 Twin Twisters. If you're playing against meta, I couldn't find them, but these actually should be Cosmic Cyclones 1000%. Twin Twister is pretty good in this deck too, though, because you can discard a card from your hand, which can sometimes be a Nightmare or, any other Orcust monster that does something in the graveyard. Again, Cosmic Cyclone is just better because you can banish the cards for the Eldritch matchup. They can't get the additional value. You can banish Babel in the mirror match, and banishing Babel really hurts. Sometimes when your opponent sets up a board with the Union Carrier lock, it might be protected by destruction. For example, the one that I will show you protects from any destruction effects, so being able to banish the Buster Whelp is important. Only Cosmic Cyclone can do that. Cosmic Cyclone is just way better than Twin Twister, but I didn't have Cosmics, so Twin's just equally as good, I guess. Not even equally as good. Cosmic's just better. Play Cosmic. And then now the rest of them are just traps here. We have 3 Summon Limit. I love this card. It's so good. If your opponent outs the Buster Whelp block, they're not going to be able to out this Summon Limit. I just don't think they have the cards to do it a lot of the times. And this can normally just shut down the game here. If you set up an established board with your graveyard with a ding just constantly coming back, you don't even need more than 2 summons because you're just applying so much pressure with that one powerful summon. And you get to do it on your opponent's turn too. Bruh, it's too good. 3, a Pointer of the Red Lotus. This card just continues to amaze me a lot of the times. One of the main things that I always miss with it is that you have to have a card in hand to be able to activate it. Sometimes you'll find yourself where you just don't have that card to be able to activate it, but being able to look at your opponent's hand during your standby phase, get all of the knowledge, but also peel something out of your hand that may just stop their turn completely is really good. One of those very few outs to like evenly matches Lightning Storms, or also again getting rid of starter cards is super powerful, especially when you know you're going first with this card. Being able to just pretty much say you can't have this one really specific, really good resource in your hand, you better have the rest of it. It's super powerful. And the last side deck card is 3 Evenly Matched. I still think one of the best trap cards in the game. Literally just good across the board. I don't really even have to defend this card. You should know how good that Evenly Matched is. But what I can say is that is the end of the deck profile. Awesome. Now that you guys are familiar with what we're playing with, I'm going to take it over to the zone mat, and I'm going to show you guys 2 really cool combos with this deck, 2 of my favorite combos to pull off, just to show you how good this deck really is. All right, so I'm going to show you guys 2 really quick 1-card combos here. The first one is a literal 1-card combo that just requires you to have Girsu, the Orcust Mech Knight, in your hand. What we're going to be able to end on this board is IP Masquerena with Babel, as well as a loaded graveyard ready to go on our opponent's turn. Again, all off this 1 card. Game's pretty good. I'll show you how to do it. So assuming this is the only card in your hand, you're going to summon Girsu, the Orcust Knight, and you're going to activate his effect to send a Orcust or a World Legacy monster from your deck to your graveyard. You're going to send Orcust Nightmare from your deck to your graveyard with its effect. And then you're going to activate its second effect to be able to create a token. Now this token is just a level 1 World Legacy token. You're going to give yourself one, and you're also going to give your opponent one on their side of the field. This is actually pretty good also during like the Sky Striker matchup. This card on its own, if your opponent doesn't have a way to respond to it, they're going to be stuck with a monster in their main monster zone that they can't get rid of, and then you're pretty much able and free to do all your combos through it. I know Sky Striker's been popping up a lot. I kind of thought I'd just plug that. From there, you're going to activate your Orcust Nightmare, and you're going to target Girsu, the Orcust Mech Knight. With its effect, you're going to send a World Legacy monster from your deck to your graveyard, or just a Dark Machine. We're going to send World Legacy Wonder Wand. Girsu is going to gain 800 attack, but it's irrelevant because we're going to use him for something later. We're going to activate the World Legacy World Wand to resummon a banished monster, and we're going to resummon the Orcust Nightmare. We're going to take Girsu and Nightmare, and we're going to link them both off into Galatea, the Orcust Automaton. Galatea is going to activate its effect. It's going to shuffle back the World Legacy World Wand, and we're going to be able to set Orchestrated Babble from our deck to our field. Just going to immediately flip up that Babble. There's no reason not to. And then we're going to exceed Dingirsu, Orcust of the Evening Star, on top of our Galatea. Unfortunately, Dingirsu doesn't get any value to be able to attach a banished card or anything like that, but really it's just being able to make a non-link monster so we can then take the token as well as the Dingirsu and summon IP Masquerena. So now with this board just off of one card, we're set up to, on our opponent's turn, activate Nightmare again, banish it, dump Symbol Skeleton, and then we have a way to summon Dingirsu, which Dingirsu will send a card, and then we can use IP, and we can summon Unicorn, shuffle back cards. It's just so good. Also, a really cool thing about this combo is summon number 5 is at the point where you have the Dingirsu and the token. So if your opponent Nibiru's you at this point, you only miss out on the IP Masquerena. If you have any extender, you can still make it because you can use the token and anything else. But even if your just opponent Nibiru's you and passes, you still have your fully loaded graveyard to be able to summon the Girsu on your opponent's turn. Again, that's all off of one card. And if you ask me, that's pretty above average. The next combo I'm going to show you involves good old Scrap Recycler, as well as any other blank card. This has to be a card that you can set from your hand or your field. It's just something you have to blow up with Scrap Wyvern other than Scrap Wyvern itself. You can still do a variation of the combo by popping Scrap Wyvern, but this combo utilizes the additional link to that Scrap Wyvern inherently is to be able to make an even more broken board. A lot of times you can have that free card too, and it just sets up a way better board in the end. So I'm going to show you that with you guys real quick. This combo, by the way, is going to end on Long Girsu with the Crescendo at the ready, Union Carrier Lock attached to a Dingirsu. Yeah, if you ask me, that's pretty good. So to start our turn, we're going to normal summon the Scrap Recycler, and we're going to activate its effect to send a machine from the deck to the graveyard. This is one of those times where I meant that Mecha Phantom Beast O-Line is pretty much mandatory for the combo. You're going to send the O-Line, and you're going to activate its effect to be able to give you a Mecha Phantom Beast token. From there, you're going to use your token in your Scrap Recycler, and you're going to link summon them into Scrap Wyvern. This is where you're going to set your blank card or your card that you intend to pop. So I'm going to set my impermanence here in the back row. Then we're going to activate Scrap Wyvern's effect to summon a scrap from the graveyard and then destroy one card we control. We're going to summon the Scrap Recycler, and then we're going to pop it with its own effect. We do this so we can trigger Scrap Wyvern's second effect, which is to summon a scrap monster from the deck. If we were to summon Scrap Recycler and pop our back row here, the Scrap Recycler would actually miss time because this card is worded as when this card is summoned. So the last thing to actually happen is Scrap Wyvern destroying a card on the field. So that's why we have to go through this other step here and summon Scrap Golem from the deck. Now, its second effect actually destroys a card on the field, either side of the field, non-targeting. If our opponent doesn't have anything on their side of the field, let's say we're going first, that's the whole point of the blank card here, we have to pop the blank card. But if this is going second and our opponent is allowing us to resolve the combo, feel free to pop anything on your opponent's side of the field, and unless they chained it when you activated the effect, they're shit out of luck. From there, we're going to activate Scrap Golem's effect, and we're going to target the Recycler, resummoning the Recycler to our field. We can activate the Recycler effect to send another machine. Rather than dumping Orcust Nightmare, you're going to dump World Legacy Wonder Wand here, and then you're going to take your Recycler and your Golem, and you're going to link two into Lib, the World Key Blademaster. Lib can only be summoned when you have a World Legacy monster in the graveyard, which is why we dumped the World Wand here. And now that Lib's on the field, we can activate its second effect to be able to set a World Legacy card from our deck to our side of the field, and we can only activate it when we have a World Legacy monster in the graveyard. So we're going to set Succession in the back row here. Now, right after we set it here, we're going to actually activate the World Legacy Succession. We're going to target Golem, and we're going to summon it to the linked zone that Lib has given us. and then we're going to activate Golem to summon Recycler again, and then we're going to activate Recycler to dump another card from our deck to your graveyard. That's our third dump with Scrap Recycler. Scrap Recycler is going to finally start to see the familiar cards. Orcust Nightmare is going to be sent to the graveyard. Then from there, we're going to take Golem and Recycler, and we're going to link them off into Union Carrier. It's important to note that we've done this all without activating any Orcust effects, so we are not under the restriction of darks yet. But don't get too excited because we're going to actually put that restriction on right now. We're going to finally banish the Orcust Nightmare, targeting whatever monster we want to. It really doesn't matter. We're going to send a Dark Machine from our deck to your graveyard. That Dark Machine is going to be Orcust Symbol Skeleton. It's going to go from deck to graveyard and give one of these dudes 300 attack. We're then going to dig back into our graveyard, and we're going to activate the World Wand, banishing it to then resummon the Orcust Nightmare to our field. From there, we are going to take our Lib and our Orcust Nightmare, and we're going to link them off into our Long Girsu, the Orcust Orchestrator. Again, if your opponent has any cards on the field, feel free to shuffle one back because a Lib effect. That's an extremely powerful effect, but again, we're assuming our opponent doesn't have anything, which is okay because we're still going to end on a pretty disgusting board. Now we're going to activate the Orcust Symbol Skeleton in our graveyard, banishing it to resummon Orcust Nightmare from our graveyard. And then we're going to take Scrap Wyvern and Orcust Nightmare, and we're going to link those two off into Galatea, the Orcust Automaton. Galatea is going to activate her effect, and we're going to take the World Wand and shuffle it back to the deck because we're going to want to equip this Symbol Skeleton to a Girsu. This is where we get a hold of our Orcust Crescendo. Feel free to pick a zone to set that in. This is going to be live on our opponent's turn. Wrapping up the combo, we're going to slap on Girsu, Orcust of the Evening Star, and since we're in the new Master, we can actually move it over here. We're going to activate its effect to attach a banished machine monster to it, attaching the Symbol Skeleton. And now throughout this entire combo, we still haven't activated that Union Carrier, so we're going to take the time to activate it now, and we're going to equip Dragon Buster Destruction Sword to our Girsu, Orcust of the Evening Star. People unfamiliar with what this does, this gives this card an additional 1,000 attack, making it a 3,600. And it also, while this card is equipped to something, your opponent cannot summon from the extra deck. So altogether, off the one card in the blank, we have Long Girsu equipped, so it can't be destroyed by card effects. We have an Omni Negate in the form of Orcust Crescendo, which also on our opponent's turn or the next turn, we can banish it to add a Girsu from our deck to our hand. And we also have a destruction effect protection here in the form of Girsu, can protect two things from being destroyed. Altogether, the two combos that I showed you are my favorite. Those are the ones I like the most, and that's why I chose to show you them. But hopefully you guys can bring up your own variations from there. With the Recycler combo, there are ways to summon IP, so you can use the carrier and the IP to make a link 4, since you can't link someone with this during the turn it's summoned. These are just the ones that I like the most. These are the ones that I tend to go into the most myself. But yeah, take that what you will. Hopefully you learned something from it. That being said, thank you guys for tuning into the video today. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to give it a big thumbs up and subscribe for more Yu-Gi-Oh content. And with that being said, I will catch you guys in the next one.